Hi, Britta.
Hello, Sameera. Great to see you. It's been a while.
Miss you. Yeah. Virtual hugs, lots of virtual hugs there. Yeah. So, Britta, we've been in this context before. We mentored and supervised each other previously, and today, for the sake of this learning space, let's go through our contracting one more time. Right. So, as you know, this session is recorded, and thank you for allowing us to record the session. And it will go approximately around 50 minutes, part of which will be mentoring and exchanging few ideas. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Great. And as you also know, I tend to have different ways of giving feedback. One is letting you explore what happened in the session and then giving very specific feedback on areas of improvement and the good practices happen. I know, Britta, you like straightforward feedback as well. So do we still hold that ground?
That's okay. Yes, yes.
Right. And okay, to put a context here as well. In terms of mentor coaching for ICF credential application, part of it, we review the recorded session to see specifically for our ACT graduates that they hit majority of the PCC markers, yet the PCC doesn't stand for perfect certified coach. So there is always, we are all work in progress. Yeah. There are areas that when I listen to this session twice, usually I do it 3 or 4 times. So I might not be able to give you feedback on all 37 markers. However, the ones which were quite clear, I can give you feedback on that. And maybe later on, when I review it for the 4th time, I can, put a more solid report. By end of this session, you will receive a report that looks something like this. Is it okay for me to share the screen with your report?
Yes, yeah? Sure.
And still not final, just for the sake of saying that I usually listen to the session 3 to 4 times to have a final say on it, right? I know, Britta, you know how to read this. For the sake of our audience, I will just explain how this works. It's a Word document where the name of the coach, the name of the mentor, the date, duration, and what number. Usually there are 3 one-to-one mentoring feedback, and if needed, we also give some more. Then the markers are on the left side of the table. The decision whether it's met or not met, the marker descriptor is next to it, and then met or not met, how many numbers of evidence required, and what is a prerequisite for that marker to be met, and also the justification, any feedback. So as you see in the feedback, I still need to fill a lot of it, right? And then here, in the blue section, you will find the strength and positive things. And in the green section, development areas, feedback for improvement, specific feedback for the next recorded session, or if it met, then still, if there is any improvement areas as well, I might add it there, or build on your strengths. So you've done a lot of good things in the session that you can do even more of it. And then maybe kind of a guideline on where did I find this session fit? Your name, my name, and date. Any question about this report? And yet reminding you that the report is not completed yet. Those empty areas are for me to listen to the session one more time. All right. So Britta, tell me, how was it for you?
Yes, so thank you for that question. I thought it was a overall good connection and good session. I like coachees who bring a lot of content to the table. And so there was so much to dig into at the same time. So I felt there was a good connection between me and the coach. At the same time, I had a few moments where my inner dialogue was overspeeding. So for example, setting the goal, and because I knew I have 30 minutes, and that's always the challenge. I went there, but then I think I didn't do how do you want to measure it and all that. So I was very aware of that. And so I think I could have spent more time. Sometimes I've been called the speed coach because I am very time efficient, especially I then rather like to spend, if I have some time at the end, explore more there. So that was kind of like my inner dialogue. And then there was this moment where, because she was talking about her body and how she would feel it in her body. And then I needed to make that, I was going to go there, the sensoric, how do you call it? There's a name for it, to go and have her feel, where does it sit in your body and how does it feel and so on. And then she continued speaking, and then I went the other route. So there were kind of two things where I was like, it would have also been nice to have it explored actually, where does it sit and what's the feeling and so on. Yeah, so those are my things. I think then at the end, the accountability part and how she wants to make sure that was at least addressed, and the exploration then. Those were the two main things, the goal setting, and then the should I have gone this route, or would have been better to kind of go where she said about the body feeling. And she gave a lot of buzzwords. So that I liked. There was so much content that I was a bit like, okay, where do I go? Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, you do, Rita. Now, of course, I know this record this session for the purpose, and thank you so much, and thank you for Noura for volunteering to be here. And we also know for the credential purposes, if we are recording with a coach, that coach must be someone who we actually coach throughout time. So it's a client coach, not only a coach. And it could be in barter deal setup, no problem in that. Yeah. And also, I want to acknowledge that you did very well comparing that you were actually coaching a coach, which is a challenge by itself sometimes, because the client tend to coach themselves a lot in the process, which doesn't give the opportunity for the coach to show their actual abilities in the sessions. But you did well in that session, Rita. Mm-hmm. Yeah? You were quite right about setting the goal, because goal is the pillar of the whole session. Yeah, I want to have clarity, making decisions and not getting attached. That came after what will make the session successful. Yeah, so let's just start from the very beginning. Welcoming the client, breaking the ice, excellent. Easing up things, taking the permission, well done. As for the session qualifier, the session was clear, no editing, no cutting. You were all the time in your coach hat, no therapy, no training, excellent. And there were no violations of ICF ethical standards. So the session is qualified for assessment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Session goal, I want to have more clarity. And what will be a SMART objective? For example, I want to have 3 ways to have more clarity when taking decisions. So for me, because it was around the clarity as a concept, somehow I said, if that was the session goal, then the rest made sense in the context. Improvement area, make it more specific. What do you want out of this 20 minutes? Mm-hmm. And the client gave you that, I want more clarity, taking decisions, feeling at ease, not attached. Yeah. 3.2. So what will make this session successful? Your question was, what needs clarity? My thought went, clarity, what do you want to clear before starting the session? That's what I thought. And that was your question. And what do you need to get it out of the way to go in the session? And that word helped the client to bring it back. And that's exactly what I wanted, actually, more clarity. So what will make our session successful? What will a successful outcome will look like after deciding that, not before. But again, still, it's in the same context. Then 3.3, let's say the marker 3.3 says, if the coach is asking questions about why this goal and why now? What brought this today? So that not met because we didn't see it in the session. I couldn't hear that clearly. No, it was clear from her side. And if you acknowledge that, saying, I can sense that this topic is important to what's going on throughout the context, then that would be met. Yeah. So in the assessment process, we are assessing the coach's ability, not the coachee's ability to give the markers.
Yes, of course, yeah.
3.4, when we talk about 3.4, it's very interesting. 98% of the coaches, very rarely in the recorded session, I come across people who tick the 3.4. I myself was not aware of it, maybe perhaps a year ago. 3.4 says things like, did the coach explore what will be hindering our process in this session? For example, what will stop us not reaching to the clarity of taking decision in this session? Yeah, and that's not meant, but the purpose of this marker is down the road. For example, if Noor said, if I feared taking decision or didn't talk about the real issues, then that might hinder us achieving today's session's goal. So down the road, throughout the session, if you sense that Noura is not taking that step or doesn't want to talk about something, you would say, remember in the beginning of the session, I asked you, what will stop us from achieving today's session? You said, not challenging myself enough or fearing or having a fear. So what's coming up for you now? Kind of like you're cutting that obstacle already. Yeah? Now remember, we don't need to hit all markers. Yeah? There are around 11 markers within the whole marker set that we call them double markers because they tackle two things. Britta, do you remember which other competency these double markers? Competency 2. Yeah? Competency 2, having coach mindset, is, how can I say, like distributed among 11 other markers. So when you hit that marker, you're actually hitting 2 points instead of 1. Yeah? And you hit a lot of them in this session. So respect was there. You didn't judge, disconnected, or disagreed, or pushed back any insight the client brought. Excellent. Throughout the session. Yeah. You acknowledged and support the expressions, feelings, beliefs, suggestions. Did not say, well, that's not the right way of thinking. Yeah. Which is excellent. Yeah. The coach shows support, empathy, and concern. I need to listen to the session again to see specific areas that you used. For example, I hear you. I totally understand. You're fine. Things like that. It's okay. Yeah.
I think there was a moment where I've corrected body language. I'm not sure if I recall correctly, but there was something that I think I remember, some hand movement or something, if that falls under.
Yeah, if it was a video, I would have seen it easier, showing that concern, empathy, your face expressions. Then if it's an audio, things like, I totally hear you. Wow, that's a lot you're going through. So these can show that the coach is showing some concern. Sometimes it's also some other things. For example, in certain other sessions, the coach is coughing. and the coach says, are you okay? Do you want to have water? So that also can tick that marker. Of course, I'm not asking you to, to tell them to go. Yeah, but that happened. So there is also, for example, 4.4, the coach partners with the client by inviting the client to respond in a way the coach contributes. So this sounds like, so I hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a lot going on and you use some interesting words. Is that what's coming up for you? Instead of, am I right? Am I right is asking for agreement. Correct me if I'm wrong is asking for them to either take it or disagree with it.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yes. I recall that.
Coach asks the response of the whole person was there, so what's coming up. It can go even deeper. For me, it's met, but it can also go deeper. What values resonate with you when you're in that paradox? Who are you being when Nora is taking care of other people's opinion? Okay, so those and other, of course, you don't need to stick to these questions. Those and other type of questions can tackle 5.1 as well. You respond to the what? Excellent. Throughout. The what was quite clear in the session. Yeah. 5.3, the coach partners with the client by supporting the client to choose what happens in the session. Yeah. This shows in a way. So what do you want us to talk about first, Nora? So you talked about paradox and challenges. Which one of them you want to tackle first? So this shows that you are not attached to where you think the session should go. It's more into, yeah. Also, for example, when you said how we can silence that judge, yeah, as opposed to what do we need to do with that judge?
Yes, correct. Yes, very true.
And I'm not saying that what you did is incorrect. It's fine. This also is another way of doing the same thing by letting a little bit space for the client to choose.
Yes, but
go ahead.
I noticed that afterwards I was questioning, is that actually, providing an avenue who says it needs to be silenced, but then I thought, okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, totally.
And it might be your intuition or gut feeling. So I will explore, what do we need to do with this judge? And what do you actually, not even we, what do you need to do with this judge? What the judge needs?
I have a question since we are on that topic, because what I was afterwards reflecting on is she never mentioned the word judge. It was me, but she described the way of putting herself and, all these phrases she used. So then it was me who said, who's the judge? So I framed that word judge. Is that okay within the world? Because, I was just reflecting on it.
So the way I would weight it is it an invitation? If it's an invitation coming from intuition, it needs an invitation. So would you allow me to share? I can sense that there is a judge. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Will that resonate with you? So that's an invitation and an inquiry led by the coach. Yeah? And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. What I'm saying, did it serve the purpose of the conversation and the coaching process?
Yes.
Yeah? And if the client had the opportunity to reject it. Yeah? Again, it was there and you used it and the client took it. It can be even better when the client has the opportunity to play with it or say, no, it's not a judge. It's more maybe a teacher. Yeah, but that didn't happen.
Yeah.
5.4, curiosity was there and the coach allowed space for silent pause and reflection. And I remember, the coaching style And sometimes they say, is it, okay, very rarely there was an overlap between she stopped, you said something, but you notice that she's continuing and you stop, which is okay. Well done. Yeah. So the coach's question is customized to what you're hearing. You're using her language. Yeah. And I wonder if you worked with Noura before in any other context. Yeah, this was the first time. Yeah. So this is not for you because it's your first time, but for our audience, 6.1, the coach asks questions, observations that are customized using what the coach has learned about who the client is or situation. This can come very nicely if the person had a longer term relationship with the client. For example, Noura, knowing you for the past 3 months and hearing a lot of situations where you stood up for those decisions, so what's coming up for you now regarding this decision? So what you're doing is you are using what you know about the client already in the conversation. Noura, I remember saying, you always have 5-minute conversation before going into any meeting. I wonder what kind of conversations you're having right now before coming to this meeting. So the comments you're using are things that you know about Noura's way of thinking. Yeah? Coach explored the words, emotions, and energy shifts. Explored for energy shifts. I saw you smiling and you went into the question without exploring the smiling. And there was a place where Noura laughed. Exactly. Yeah. And the coaches, if that's a good opportunity for us to look at. When you said this, your energy level shifted. What's coming up for you, that's exploring. As opposed to your energy level shifted. So what are you going to do when taking decisions next time? It's not exploring the energy. It's acknowledging it, but moving forward. In other contexts, another example, I saw you taking longer pause to answer this question. What was coming up for you? So that's another way of exploring shifts in energy and behaviors. Yeah. 99% of the time you allowed the client to finish. Very rarely the okay, very rare, very small. So more than once met. And one of the beautiful things you've done, you did not repeat everything the client said. You brought the zubda, as Claire says. This tick, 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 what's coming up for you? So that's, they don't need to hear it all, but you brought the right words where she actually acknowledged that, and listening back to what I said, verbalizing it, made me think. Yeah. BCC. So the coach is checking the way the client is seeing their world right now, and then beyond what the world can be, what could be possible now? Yeah. Again, the question around, so what, sharing comments, intuitions, feelings, again, needs some invitation there. Yeah. So I sense, and correct me if I'm wrong, and then you continue. Your questions were direct. Yeah, go ahead.
In the invitation for what would be possible beyond, that needs an invitation?
No, the sharing of the intuition or an observation. Yeah.
Okay.
And I noticed, for example, if this was a long-term relationship, so say, I noticed in the last 3 sessions, majority of our conversations was around you trying to be at ease, we're taking decision. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're sharing an observation. Yeah? Or will you allow me to share an observation? Yeah? Other than one specific place in the 3 times listening, there was only one closed question for a purpose.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you remember the question then?
I remember there was one because when I said it, I was like, oops. But I don't remember the question.
It was for me also, I only heard it once.
It was
The
a
rest of
wide,
them,
it was a yes, but no. Yeah, it was a, yeah. Close, but. Mhm.
And one question where you ask, okay, what are you going to do with this learning? And she said, future. You said, well, from this session, no problem with that. And you can say, which one of them you want to answer from the
Yeah.
learning in this session or future?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, because that was an inquiry there, right? And she was like, oh, from this session, okay, right. The language is clear. And the coachee was talking most of the time. Checking on, okay, so where are we from the session goal? Yeah. Being at ease, taking decisions. Now, this is it, right? Because the session goal was so abstract, the check-in will be also so abstract. If it was, I want to know at least 3 ways to be sure that I'm clear when I'm taking decisions and not being attached. And that, how would we measure? You said we will measure the success of the session if we reached X. So where do you think we've reached from that? What did you learn about taking decisions and being at ease? What did you learn about Noura taking the decision when being at ease? So 2 things, learning, what did you learn? You said that. This could be specific to take both markers about the who and the what. And there is a marker, let me just let's go there, 8.4. Yeah. Where else in your life are you going to use the learning of this session?
Mhm.
5, bigger perspective of the learning. 5 years down the road, when you have mastered this, where do you see yourself? Bigger perspective. So what actions are you going to take next time when you face taking decision? What else you want to reflect on by the time we meet next time? So we have 10 minutes to go. What would be the most useful way to use these 10 minutes in the end? And moments of celebration, if it came, fine. If it didn't, how we show that. For example, sometimes if it's a longer term relationship, the coachee comes in the very beginning of the session and say, hey, Rita, remember that action point? I did it. Well done. Good job. Yay. So that's a celebration. Celebration can also be if you sense previously in the session that Noura is not type of the person who talks, but this session, she was vulnerable and talking a lot and going deep. So you say, I really want to acknowledge your bravery or openness in this session, talking about this. So that's also a way of showing celebration and support, both. Tick, tick. So we achieved, we came to end of the session. You asked the permission, is it a good time? Which is okay. And it can also be in different way. For example, in what ways do you want us to wrap up today's session?
Okay.
Noura was using a lot of quotes in her, doing the right things or doing things right, yeah? So Noura, what one quote or affirmation you will say yourself in the end, you'll tell yourself in the end of the session? So that can be a wrap up invited by the coach to the client. But again, as I said, I need to listen to the session at least one more time to clarify whether we're meeting the rest of the areas that I couldn't, find it. But however, how was it for you, Britta, after the feedback?
No, good. I mean, it's great to hear other perspectives and alternative ways, and also where to strengthen and where to deepen. Very, very good. So I can't wait to get the report. Yeah.
It's always amusing listening to your coaching session. Remember in that event where you did first time in a Coach Me event, and next day we had a session together, and I said, I really like the way you bring that lightness with serious touch in your session. So thank you, Britta. I'm learning a lot from you as well.
Thank you. That made my day. Thank you.
Thank you, Britta. Thank you so much. And now we're back. Claire, to you.
So we've got a comment in the chat. Well, there's a few comments in the chat, but one of them says, is it PCC level from Dominique? So as Sameera said, this recording came out yesterday. I think it was 6 o'clock in Qatar when Britta and the fabulous coaches, VP of ICF Doha, Nora, very kindly also stepped up to be the coachee. So myself and Sameera have listened today, but quite often we want to listen, just wind it back and so forth. Now, I will bravely say gut reaction, it's PCC. If I'm seeing it holistically, if we change our mind, but I don't think we will, Britta, if we change our mind, we will make sure that people on this call get a message, because we literally go down the markers and tick the boxes type of thing. What I absolutely loved, some people who are not coaches or they've done an hour's coach training, they might be like, what's the topic? And of course, the topic was exactly what she wanted, which was gaining clarity. You know, it's not clarity about what, because that's being nosy, not curious. So I loved that that was demonstrated in the session. I may have gone a little bit deeper into why this topic, why now, as two different questions. Loved that Sameera brought out, when we coach someone for a number of sessions, we can use a systemic lens and see patterns over time. Of course, that wasn't possible with this one-off session. The word paradox, I was so curious, and I was going sort of gestalty. What's the opposite of paradox to play with? And then something actually, Britta did do that, go for the opposite, because it's amazing what perspectives come out of that. And then 1409-ish, my goodness, MCC level in terms of spaciousness. Don't do that, Britta, own it. It was the spaciousness there was just beautiful. It really, really was. You know, what else? I had one more thing, because obviously a lot's been said already. Yeah, going to the somatic side and wearing your body. Oh, Nora's sharing appreciation there. Going to, what is it from your body that's telling you that this is something that needs work from you right now? That type of thing is gorgeous. Now, what's great about this is also, if the client doesn't go there, you know, I feel it in my shoulders, or how big is it and what color is it, then the fact you've tried to go there, that's fine. Yeah, and that's why Sameera and most of our team are not just certified mental coaches, which is about managing group mental coaching and the dynamics, the way to give feedback, but also PCC marker trained with ICF. That's the little not little, big snippets, 40 hours training that you get by looking at this really thoroughly. So I loved the session. I really did. And the humor in there as well around the who's judging. You know, there was definitely a aha realization moment there. I'd be curious, don't answer because I'm not coaching or supervising right now, but I'd be curious if that was in other parts of Nora's life as well. The self-judging, you know, I make up it is, it may not be true, but it usually is in other parts of our life. So that's my snippets of comments. Oh, the other thing is, there was definitely a feeling of, what are you experiencing in your body right now in this moment? And of course, there was that thing is, what shifted so far in the session? I'm using my words here, Britta, not yours, but that was evident. You know, are the results of the session being met throughout? That was there as well. Now you've had time to breathe, Sameera, anything else you need to say? We'll ask Britta if there's anything she would like to share as well, now that she's received the feedback, and then we'll just go for Q&A. Sameera, anything? And there might not be.
Yeah, I will comment on the part of the mentoring, because that's what we are trying to demonstrate here. It's a partnership between the mentor and mentee, and we do it both ways. Sometimes we, you know, me and Claire and myself as well, when we get confused about a specific marker or specific competency that we're looking at, won't tell Claire which level the coach is actually going for. I'll say, just listen to this slightly and come back to me. And then it's the way of giving feedback to the mentee. It's a partnership. Every coaching session has benefit, and as mentors, we need to be more objective. You know, we have a markers, we stick to the markers. It's not our preferences, and if it's a preference, you clearly say this is another way of doing it. It's not the only way. So that was, you know, my take of wearing my mentor hat. I wonder what's coming up for you, Britta. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I also wanted to reflect on something there was a comment in the chat in regards of Stena said she was confused. So I wanted to share my experience. So when Nora started off, there were a lot of words, paradox and clarity. And yes, in the beginning, I also had to hold back in coming in too early. And I remember, do not speak. And then, because I also didn't know what the clarity was about. And I'm glad I held myself back, because she continued talking, and then it became more specific, as in clarity of decisions and so on. And until now, I don't know the paradox. I could have gone there, but she kind of went the way of decisions, and I want to feel it in my body. I want to feel at peace. I don't want to care about what others think. So that's the journey I took. And in my view, I kept telling, my inner dialogue was telling, as long as she understands and it makes sense for Nora, and I could sense that she was benefiting from the questions, I don't need to understand, as long as she understands. Am I right? Does that make sense to you? So I don't always need to understand the coachee in every detail, as long as it makes sense and the coachee is moving forward towards her or his goal.
And we see in less experienced coaches that need to understand everything. That wasn't present. Because you can tell she's working through her stuff. That's what it's about. Yeah. Do we go to questions? I'm going to take you both off in, if you don't mind, just for the questions. There we go. So we can see the people on camera, and it just feels better that way. So any questions, thoughts, comments? Oh, Nora, it'll be fabulous to hear your thoughts as well.
Yes, It was very nice. Thank you, Brita. 30 minutes, but 30 powerful minutes. And actually, I just wanted to tell you that I really definitely cleared my mind, and what I had to do afterwards, I just nailed it. So I was happy. I went to bed very happy, in peace. I slept all the night, and you're totally right, Brita. At the end, I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to explicit the paradox. In the session, I wanted just to clear my mind. I didn't want to go into the content. So yes, that was a good call. Just acknowledging the whatever what is happening, or how I name it, what is happening. But yes, reflecting back, like you said, Sameera, I loved it. The Zubda, very clean. It was clean, yes. It was very nice. It felt very nice. So sometimes we don't need to say much. Just the essence of what the coach perceive from the situation, and actually not even perceive, being into the shoes of the coachee. Where do you want to go? And this is what I felt. So thank you for that.
Also really interesting listening to.
And yes, she noticed
ourselves.
as well, she reflected back, because the gesture you were looking for, I was doing this actually. And I noticed that she did the same, actually, because she reflected back. She was mirroring my somatic, perhaps, and I noticed, because I looked at her and she was doing the same thing, and I said, okay, but why I have my hand on my on my neck, around my neck, right?
Thank you, Nora. Thanks. And from all of us, thanks for bravely stepping into this. So there's a question in the chat as well. What are your thoughts on asking the client who they need to be for them for the session? So one thing I noted was when Britta asked, as I said, I've written fast, it might not be word for word, what needs to shift to silence the judge? Now, we've got a German person speaking English, and your main language is French, Nora, isn't it? And they're all speaking English. And I was curious, was it the word shift? Was it a language thing? But then Britta repeated it, and then Nora went there. So speaking to what you said, Mark, at that place of, you know, what shift is needed, that's a similar question to who do you need to be? And to probe deeper in a longer session, even getting them to stand up, right, embody. And now you've said you need to be like X, go to metaphors. How about we do that together? See the partnership bit as well. I think partnership's mentioned 27 million times in the new ICF competency. So yeah, we love it as well. The other thing that's just come to my mind there, did that answer your question, Mark?
Well, and it sort of stemmed from what Nora was talking about, in terms of how she just needed Brita to be in that space, you know, just a certain space. And that's what I'm just like, you know, at the beginning, like, who do they need me as coach to be for them? Like, as a listening partner, like, what is the nature of our relationship and our partnership for this coaching session?
Yeah.
And just checking in, I'd be interested in what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I would maybe would think it's in the first competencies 3.1 and 2.3. And 4 is specifically if Britta as coach noticed that that's what the client wants, just reflect back saying, so correct me if I'm wrong. So the objective of today's session is you need a space to create clarity. So when you take the decision, you're not attached. And this is what the session is about. So it's fine to have an objective for reflection only. The client is only looking for reflection. And then, so when you are reflecting in this space about clarity, what would be the outcome and how we would measure that this session was successful for you. So you see, we can offer it with invitation to reject if the client is not really clear about the session goal 100%. I don't need to know it 100%. Still clarity about decisions is not clear for me. But again, I at least acknowledged and repeated that one more time. Down the road, so who you want to be in this session is a very good question. And then who have you been in this session and who you will be after this session are all exploring the who. So these can be also alternative ways to tick a couple of markers. Yeah.
And I was just thinking as well, then the other thing is at the end, sorry, something was just going on with at the end of the session, what way can we partner in closing this session? That brings in partnership as well. And there was a question in the chat. Sometimes when we've honed in, you know, like a sieve, we might ask a closed question and no one's going to throw you out the room in disgust. And if you say, is it this or this, because you've honed down to that, they've still got the opportunity to say, well, actually, it's not that or that, it's this. However, if we just give two things, or it's a yes or no answer being a closed question, we are potentially reducing the options of what they can say next. So that's the reason. So there was, do you know, I think this might be a language thing, Britta. There was one thing you said, how does paradox look like? So please forgive me, you know, I'm dyslexic, so I can't spell. And in English, we tend to say, what does paradox look like? As opposed to how does paradox look like? So, and I'm wondering how that is in translation in German and French and Arabic. We've got it all here, and even Canadian.
Sorry, yeah, that is a language thing, because what in German would be how does it look like? And didn't, so I wanted to ask to kind of go more into the creative, get out of the logic, like what's paradise look like. Now that you mention it, I'm clear about it. Or I could ask, how do you describe paradox as, I don't know, what color has paradox? Or that's what I actually wanted to get to. And when I asked the question, I was like, okay, interesting question, but let's see.
I've heard it before
I get you.
from a German person.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the other
radical in French is the same. When you translate it in French, it's the same. So because she's you're German, right? No, Dutch. Yeah. So yeah, the radical in French is the same. The what's means another thing in French as well. So I totally get your question.
Same here.
It's fascinating. Yeah. So the other thing there is also there's something come in the chat. Sorry, one above.
So it's the idea of, is it okay the goal is not clear? It's not okay that the goal is not clear. We need to clarify that as much as we can, because we have other 6 markers that will not meet if 3.1 is not met. So it will affect the whole thing. Preferably, the goal is not clear for me. For example, I want to know ways to take decisions with X person, but I don't want to disclose X person. That's fine. That's a clear goal. It's okay, you can go with that. But I want to know in this session, I need taking decisions with X session is not a clear goal, because within the session, that person will not take decision. They will do this behavior outside the session. Am I making sense?
And I
Yes.
think that's the interesting thing there is the goal was clear to get clarity. We don't need to know what the clarity is about. You know, I'll give you an example. I might want to get clarity and perspective on where the family are going on vacation in the summer. The goal of the session is clarity. I don't need to mention family and vacation in summer because the coach is being nosy if they ask that bit. It's a hard one to explain that. Britta, you were going to say something.
Yes, I remembered. So I was also a bit like, how much do I now stress on the goal while keeping time? And I guess, yeah, so she then went into her body, and I'm not sure if it's exactly fear, or she wanted to be at peace when she takes decisions. So she wanted to feel, and these are my words, she wanted to feel less stressed when taking decisions. And at the end, she actually said, yes, before I was, and I didn't use the measurement, before I was at 4, now I'm at 8. So it has gone down. So for me, that's her benefit. I totally agree. The goal could have been elaborated more clearly. But I think if it had been done, it would be a measurement of her feeling and where is she now and where does she want to be? Because it was clear then that it was the feeling in her body that she doesn't. Am I right, Nora? Is that what you meant? Yeah. Okay.
Thumbs up from Nora. Brilliant. Wow, we could carry on another hour. We can discuss these sessions so much in so many ways. And myself and Sameera have another session now. And I know some of you are jumping rooms. See you in the corridor. We've got another session in Arabic with someone else doing the coaching. Thank you all, especially Britta, especially Nora, and those of you who stayed up late or got up early, and Sameera, who's had 100 things today. And do check the Community Cafe sessions on the website. If you can't find them, let us know. And also join us for the Mentor Coaching Certification Program so you can experience the competencies upside down and inside out. See you soon. Bye.